Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with another episode of Magic Mics. And we get started as we do each week with the first pick. I want to introduce my co-host Ruben Bressler, who's on location.
Hello.
And Aaron Campbell. And we are going to talk about all the things we do as we do each week. We're talking about some Magic stuff. And Ruben, tell us why you're on location and what you're doing over there.
Yeah, so I am in beautiful Turtle Lake, Wisconsin, which you've never heard of. Population 1,050.
Turtle Lake.
Have you?
I have.
Lake. It's
Really?
a resort city. You know, it's beautiful out here. It's high 70s. The sun is shining. The tank is clean. The tank is clean. No, don't worry about it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's gorgeous out here. I'm reporting on the PPC Poker Tour, and I'm actually taking a break right now in the poker room, doing Magic Mics because for the fans.
For the fans.
They need Ruben. They need their Ruby fix every week, and they don't get it from the blog.
They needed you there.
But if you want to check out the blog, you can check out blog.ppcpokertour.com, and I'm doing updates all day from up here at the St. Croix Casino.
Nice.
I have to say, I thought of you this weekend when I was watching the vintage tournaments, and they kept saying somebody was playing Mox Rubies, and I immediately thought of you. I didn't even think of
I'm
the
there
card.
in
I was
spirit.
Ruben, where? And,
Ruben,
yeah, it was.
I'm there in spirit. I'm a first pick in cube. That's all that matters.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we're going to begin with our actual first pick instead of catching up to where in the world is Ruben Bressler.
He's like our Matt Lauer.
I barely know where I am anytime.
Exactly. So, all right, anyway, so we're going to talk about the new Mulligan Rule was officially adopted. Is going to start with the Battle for Zendikar pre-releases. I'm super excited about it. I think the new Mulligan Rule is sweet. I think some of the pros don't like it. Not everyone is in universal praise of it, and I was a little shocked at that because I felt that it was very universal, but some were just like, well, you know, like there's a reason that Mono Red did so well because they could smooth their draws and they got to actually play some more Magic. When they play some more Magic, they have a better matchup. And so the decks that are on curve and need to hit certain things, you need to find certain cards, are better with the new Mulligan Rule than others. And so there was, you know, what I had heard was someone say, well, you know, what if they just did the new Mulligan Rule for limited? Because that's where it really helped, and that's where it really matters, I think, the most, at least in terms of, you know, game benefit. So because you already have different rules for limited. You can have a 40-card deck. Well, if you have a 40-card deck, you can scry on your first turn if you mulligan, or whatever, whenever you choose your mulligan decision, which I thought was really interesting. But, you know, ultimately, I think it's very positive. I loved the idea of it, and I can't wait to start playing with it, you know, myself. So, Aaron, how do you feel about it?
Well, as somebody who plays Dredge and has to mulligan a lot, I think it's fantastic because you're never happy to mulligan. Like even if it's something your deck has to do, and even if it's something that you're sort of trained to do, it's still nice to know that there's still some sort of upside where you know it's not all downside, and I'm fine with it. And I can't help but think about, you know, whenever I hear this mulligan discussion happening, I just keep thinking of poor Mike Sigris that had to mulligan all the way down to 3 in the finals, and people going, you know, this rule is supposed to mitigate things like that. And it's like, not.
Well,
no.
You got to keep your open. You got to keep
they
a
did.
hand
All day. Yeah, exactly. You have to keep a 5-card hand in order to get the scry to matter. You know,
Exactly.
a deck like Thopters that depends so heavily on its Soul Artifact, or a deck on like Red that depends on having a critical mass of cards. Scrying one card is huge for those decks, where it's less important. Slightly less important for control decks because they have all the scry in their deck already. They have a bunch of card draw. They can smooth out their draws. Slightly different for control decks.
Well, I think the other thing that comes to mind for me is that scry is very much an ability that gets better based on the skill of the person.
Sure.
You know, I know
Yes.
I've scried things I shouldn't have, thinking it's a good card, and all of a sudden it's not. Or, you know, you see it with discard spells too. You know, somebody targets you with Thoughtseize, and you know what card is good, and you're like, oh crap, and then they grab the bad one. And, you know, I think it's good. You know, the people who know how to scry and know how their deck works, I think they'll make the most of it, and those who are not so sure, I don't think it'll be as good in their hands.
Yeah.
Sure,
So,
it's a subtle skill tester for sure.
Yeah.
I think one reason that a lot of the pros aren't in favor of it also is that it's not implemented on Magic Online yet. And so if you're, for example, going to Worlds and you want to play test, you can't effectively play test because Magic Online doesn't have the scry rule, and all of the events at Worlds will. So that's a little bit annoying, certainly. But the rule itself, I think, is pretty much universally liked, at least before the Pro Tour. Maybe now people are slightly less on it because they don't like mountains as much as I do.
Well, sure. I mean, it was kind of the right metagame call at the time. But for those who are like, what's the new scry rule? Just so we can get it out there, you could mulligan your 7-card hand to 6 and mulligan to 5 and 4 and so on. Well, now every time you keep a mulliganed hand, 6 cards or less, you then get to scry 1. Look at the top card of your library. You can put it on the top or the bottom, and that lets you kind of play a game of Magic, quote unquote, in ways that you didn't always. When you mull to 5, sometimes it's just so disheartening, and you're like, I'm just dead. Like, this 5-card hand isn't even that good because it's missing X, and then you can scry 1 and get rid of like a land or a non-land because you're looking for land or whatever it is, and actually get to play a game of Magic, because it's pretty soul crushing when you get to a certain spot. I know, in particular myself, when I get to like I'm 5-0 or 6-0 at a big event, and then like I just mulligan to Oblivion, and then I got mana screwed game 2, and it's just, and if this could help that, then I think it's great. And from all I can see, I think it helps it quite a bit. So we're going to go from the first pick to...
All people want is for games to...
All people
Ruben,
want...
we lost you.
All people want are games to...
Am I back on?
Yes, you've been on the whole time.
Okay. Sorry. She
Okay.
told me that you guys lost me.
No. So
Well, I've been found.
Anyway, we're back. We're here with Gather the Townsfolk. We're going to talk about the 2015 Magic State of Design article by Mark Rosewater. Mark Rosewater writes these once a year. Mark Rosewater is one of the most amazingly consistent individuals on the planet. How long has he been doing his comic strip now? Like, one comic a day on his Twitter for like years. I mean, he's well over into 4 digits. Like, the man, the Ride to Work podcasts, you know what I'm saying? Like, he does something, and he does it so amazingly consistently, and it's great. And Mark, you're awesome. And I've met the man many times. Had dinner with him. He's fantastic. So he did his State of Design. He looked back over the past year or so of Magic design, and he said, like, the clans were huge, but Cons block should have ended on the clans, because the clans were awesome. Instead of saying, that clan stuff, we're just fooling, oops, dragons. Oops, all dragons. And Manifest was sweet. Manifest was great. It turned out a lot better. I thought it was going to be super confusing and hard to play with, and it turns out that it was really interesting and neat. And the lessons, the things that I always like about Mark is that he is very, he can kind of, how do you say it? He can, he can criticize himself. He can talk about what he did wrong, and he can try to learn from it. And I really appreciate that he says, like, the number one thing was they shouldn't have made the dragon set before they made the dragon set. Because you made, like, Fate Reforged that had, like, common dragons, and then you had Dragons of Tarkir, which didn't have common dragons. And as I've heard Mark say like 1,000,000 times, if your theme's not at common, it's not your theme. So that was a little weird, which was nice. And the dragons need more variety, and I understood how dragons are perceived. And Megamorph was super dumb and bad, and I appreciate that he was just like, the name sucked. That's the thing I really loved. It's like, that's just good old-fashioned honesty with yourself, right. That the name was crap, and leaving Tarkir in the wrong state was kind of the crescendo of the lessons, because like, man, I want Jeskai back. I want more Jeskai stuff, man. I love that stuff. I want more Obzon stuff. I think that was really sweet. So yeah, Ruben, how do you feel about this State of Design article?
Well, I feel like, first of all, Mark Rosewater is an absolute force of nature, not the card, like an actual force that will never die. He's the East Wind. That's just what he is. He's unbelievably good at his job, and if you could put people who had contributions to Magic other than competitive Magic, then Mark Rosewater would be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
He's singularly important in the development of this game, and every time I hear him on podcasts and design articles, he's just incredibly impressive and smart and insightful and self-aware, which is a great quality that I always try to seek out in people that I'm friends with and fans of and stuff like that. Specifically talking about what I think of the State of Magic design, agreed, Megamorph is a stupid name. It's like multi-kicker. Like, what are you doing?
Really?
Just come up with some fantasy thing. The game is called Magic. You can make up a word.
Make up anything.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of making up words, when Cons was announced, I was real skeptical that people would pick up on Abzan or Jeskai or Sultai, I was like, no, they're always going to call it Bug. It's always going to be Bug. It's going to be Rug Delver. That is what it's going to be. Nope, it's Temur. It's Temur Tempo now.
Yeah.
Like, we all know what Temur is. We all know what Abzan is. They picked really good, catchy names for the clans, which I think is really important.
Two syllable.
Two syllable.
Yep.
Catchy, easy to identify, fun to say.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not super awkward, and there's not I mean, Abzan is kind of like the only multiple pronunciation one. Whereas every time I heard Zach Hill say Simic, it kind of killed me a little bit inside.
Ooh, no. Ooh,
right?
no.
But
That's not right.
I think that they did a lot of things right in Magic design, and if the things that they did wrong were that they made too many dragons, that's a good mistake to make, because dragons are great, and obviously Dragons of Tarkir was a pretty good set. But they didn't really mix together.
Sure.
Right? Like, you wanted to have more clans. You
Right.
didn't need to have extra. It was too sweet.
I needed
It was
more.
too sweet of a dessert.
I needed more Wurtang clan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
need that. I love the fact they made the monks. Aaron, how do you feel about sort of Mark's look back over and your sort of your own feel of how cons went?
I was very pleased with Khan's block. I would have liked to have seen him touch on Delve a little bit more, because it's obvious that Delve was.
They were like, oh crap! Even
Right.
the crappy common 5/5. Oops, legacy.
Yeah, like I definitely wouldn't call Delve a mistake, but I do think there was definitely some oversight there, where it's like, girl, did you really, like, you didn't think this was gonna make an impact? Like, I was kind of amused by that when that whole thing was going down. So I would have liked to have seen him touch on Delve a little bit more.
Sure.
I was I'm consistently impressed with how Khan's block has affected other formats. We see Monastery Mentor that has reinvigorated Miracles. It's now Monastery Miracles now.
Wow.
Kolaghan's Command has single-handedly made Grixis the color combination in Modern now.
Okay.
I would argue Grixis is more popular than Jund right now. You have Grixis Twin, Grixis Delver, Grixis Control.
Yeah.
Modern hasn't seen a real control deck in some time, and people are playing Grixis Control. You're just seeing these cards that are making a really big impact, and I think that's fantastic. And that, to me, is the sign of a good format. Like, you can make Standard exciting, and that's really great, but if you can get Modern involved, and Legacy involved, and Vintage involved, I just think that's a slam dunk right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of vintage, there was a halfway decent amount of non-hanger backwalker cards from recent memory from Khan's block that made an impact over the weekend. Not the least of which was Dragonlord Dromoka in the winning vintage lists.
Dragonlord Dromoka is
awesome.
Seen even the dredge list will carry one of her as a sideboard plan.
Here's what you do.
Yeah.
You go back to Khans of Tarkir. She's from Khans, right? Dromoka?
Dragonlord Dromoka?
Dragonlord
No,
Dromoka.
she's from Dragons.
Okay, she's from Dragon. Okay, no, it was from Dragons of Tarkir then. You go to the set review where I told Brad, hey, this has been talked about in Vintage, and I don't think it's that crazy because of how powerful the effect is. And he just, like, laughs in my face and is like, you are totally crazy. This would never work in a million years.
Up to 2 months later.
It was great. Oh, that's great. That's what I remember
Is there a
those.
pie bet on the line?
No, of course not, but there should be. So yeah, that was fantastic. Mark Rosewater once again killed it, as he just does, because that's what he just does. We're going to move ourselves into splash damage. Splash damage is when things happen not necessarily in Magic or from Wizards of the Coast, but things are related to Magic. And Wizards did announce themselves that Puzzle Quest is coming to Magic the Gathering, or Magic the Gathering is coming to Puzzle Quest. I don't know how to play Puzzle Quest. Does anyone here know how to play Puzzle Quest?
So here's,
anybody?
I have a
theory.
theory.
35-year-old mother of two. I don't play Puzzle Quest.
So I have a theory. It seems to be. It looks to me like Bejeweled, and but Bejeweled with mana symbols and with the Planeswalker symbols. And then, but it looks like there's other players.
Sorry about that.
Nice, Ruben.
It's the levels going up.
I love
levels.
it. But it feels like, so we saw what looked like a 4-player game happening, and I was thinking, like, how Bejeweled could be played with multiple people, and I was like, well, maybe you each, like, take a turn, so, like, I move the symbols one way, then you move them another way, and then...
I'm going to bring up a screenshot right now so people can see a little bit of the game board of what you're talking about.
This is horribly weird.
It's just... I don't understand any of I just feel so lost. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
I hate to say it, but there is a part of me too that's going, these are resources that could go to other things.
Maybe. I see that, but look, so there's a couple things with Puzzle Quest, which is that Candy Crush makes so much money. You know, Angry Birds makes so much money. If you can get a mobile game and corner the bored people in dentist's office waiting room market with your game and make some money from it, by all means, you should do it. You know, if my mom downloads Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest on her iPad and is playing Magic Puzzle Quest, and there's another mother-son combination out there that's like, oh, I recognize that. Oh, I recognize that. And they get 0.01% crossover. It's 100% worth it for them to do it because they're building more clout in each other's games. You're getting more Puzzle Quest people. You're getting more Magic people. It only makes sense. And also the fact that you just make so much money from such a simple thing as a mobile game these days, you know.
Well, I mean,
it's not limited to consoles anymore.
Of course, and well, it also depends on sort of how it's set up and how, like, you know, the pay scheme and the things you can pay for in the game work. You know, I appreciate the fact that Wizards continues to kind of sort of broaden their scope in terms of letting Wizards or Magic IP go in different places. We have the board game. You remember the Jace coins? Wizards? I remember the Jace coins. I'm never going to forget the Jace coins. They think I'm going to forget.
Are they like
come on.
Printed coins.
Yeah, I remember the printed silver coin thing.
Legal New Zealand tender or whatever.
It was so good.
I've never heard of those.
The South Pacific was where they printed Jace coins. It was so weird.
I made a whole Magic show about it. You can check it out where I make fun of it in every possible light that I possibly can.
I can't wait till Puzzle Quest has like an update where they're like, yep, we added this new background and it's a card art we've never seen before. So all players have to go download the app, you know what I mean? So I think that there's a lot of opportunities with Puzzle Quest.
I can't believe
I'm not their audience.
Well, they didn't put a promo in the board game. Why did you not put a promo in the board game? That was dumb. That was a horrible decision. Whoever was responsible for that, you should feel bad. Because I would have bought that stupid game if it had some random promo in it that I was looking for my cube or my deck, or anyone else would too. It's like, oh, it's just alternate art, whatever. It's like, it's worth it to put that in the thing so you can actually get that crossover you're talking about. And maybe people will like more of the board games that you make in the future because you're putting promos in them to work with their decks. That's how they co-create. It's just like it's like the movie. The movie has to have a promo that you get for watching it the first weekend. Wizards, this is free. You really, really need to do this because if you don't, you're an idiot. And when you do, and you get ridiculous box office because you printed a totally sweet Jace promo, I mean, just go crazy. Go Jace the Mind Sculptor promo foil. You get weekend one. Just do it. Just go, man. Give them something. Give them something that Magic players love and want, and they will enjoy it.
They'll eat it up. Yeah,
they'll eat it up.
Absolutely.
So
even if it's like Lady in the Water by M. Night Shyamalan bad of a movie, they'll still go get it just for this promo card. It's a collector's item.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's a really good idea. Hopefully they follow through on that for stuff like the movie, for stuff like Puzzle Quest, and they sort of more incorporate this stuff. But as far as this goes, this is like not up my alley. I don't even know what Puzzle Quest is.
It's fine. I mean,
it's like a phone game. So
I guess.
So fun fact, I have Twitter open while you were ranting, and there's a trending hashtag that says name the next boy band, dollars to donuts.
Oh my God.
Wow. That's the service I provide, dollars to donuts, ladies and gentlemen. So the AV Club have posted a new article today from Steve Heisler, and it's called 22 Years In, Magic is the Most Brainiest It's Ever Been. And it talks about how the core sets are going away, and the creators, like Mark Rosewater, who's interviewed in it, are saying, like, you know, we've decided that, like, when you try to, like, sort of dumb down the game in the middle of the year, it doesn't really serve any of the people it's supposed to. It makes new people go, like, well, why can't we play with, like, the cool stuff? And it makes veterans say, like, well, but I don't like this sort of standard mana dork, 2/2 bear with no abilities, 3/3 with no abilities. Like, come on, man, let's do something cool. So it was really nice to have an article that is on AV Club / The Onion that isn't making fun of Magic in any way. It is, in fact, treating it with an incredible amount of respect. I think Magic came out super, super good. And yeah, I loved every bit about it. And it's one of those articles that everything is positive, everything was sweet. So, Aaron, did you see this thing?
I did. I liked a couple of things that were mentioned in here, especially as somebody who's tried to teach people Magic, and as somebody who will be teaching people Magic at PAX this weekend. So come say hello and see me.
Very nice.
But he said a couple of things about, why should something be aimed at beginners at only one point in the year? So you're basically saying to these people, well, you can jump on board, but only at this time.
Right.
Why not be, accessible all year round? And more importantly, why does it have to be something that's dumbed down? And he makes up the point where if somebody really wants to understand something, they're going to understand it. Like they're going to Google it, research it, go on forums if they really want to know that badly. And, it was a little insulting to say to people, you're only going to understand what a 2/2 no-text bear does. We're going to give you a flipped planeswalker, and you're going to want to know what this is. And I was all for this. I thought it was really good. And he also said we're rewarding intelligence and we're rewarding curiosity. And I think that's great. I think that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ruben?
The idea that core sets are fundamentally for beginners and that the other sets are fundamentally for experts is printed on the packs, or at least used to be. They used to be, this is an expert set. If you're not an expert, stay away. It's very dangerous for you to try to learn Magic in October as opposed to in August, which is kind of stupid. I also like the quote from Morrow where he says he was sending out core sets with a Viking funeral. It's just the way that Morrow talks is very funny. The AV Club is great. It's whereas the Onion is all sarcasm and irony, AV Club is the serious take, and it uses the same smart people, but all the stuff that's on the AV Club is actually quite serious. And the fact that they're taking this much of an interest in Magic, which we see as our geeky hobby, this sort of, we played at the lunch table, but the popular kids didn't really.
Right.
It's 22 years in. We got 22 million people worldwide that play it. It's not, it's not in the corners anymore. And the fact that it's on something as big as the AV Club is certainly speaking to that. Magic comes off super good in this article. I highly suggest you guys take a look at it. They talk a lot about Demonic Pact as sort of an allegory for Magic in general, which I really like too. It's a really well-written article.
It was neat.
And hopefully, it's always great to see Magic in media not being made fun of. It's just refreshing all the time for me.
It is great.
AV Club is a bunch of nerds, so of course they're going to make us look good. So.
And that's great. And AV Club, we appreciate it. There was... I was talking to a buddy of mine recently, and I was just like, the Pro Tour payouts haven't changed in a long time. And I was watching the LCS, which is worth like $1 bajillion for everybody who plays it. I swear to God, I need to learn League of Legends because I don't understand the stream. I feel very much like the people who watch SCG Live and don't play Magic because I get none of it. I just don't.
Did you see that they were at Madison Square Garden?
Yes, it was beautiful. It was incredible. It was thousands of people.
Not even Worlds.
Yeah,
that was North American finals.
Yeah, that was
the winner of that goes somewhere else.
Yeah, they go to Sweden or something. I
know nothing about the game, but just seeing the pictures. Anthony Lowry took a bunch of pictures, and it was a spectacle. It was like, whoa.
And I just can't follow it at all. They just start talking really fast, and things just start going, and start really, and then the crowd gets to me, oh my God, and then I don't know what happened anymore. And they die down, and it stops, and I'm like, oh, somebody died. It said someone died right there on the screen. That's all I got. I can't really process it. It's fine.
Even when you try to apply it to concepts that you think you know, like I know someone tried getting me into Heroes of the Storm, because I played World of Warcraft, and that was sort of, I figured that would be my entry into it. Sure. And I was like, can I heal? And they're like, well, you can be a support, but it's not quite a healer. And I'm like, well, what does it do? Like, can you give me anything that's close to what I'm used to? And you can't. It just doesn't fit into those little boxes.
Yeah, those games are all sort of, they're super deep and they take a long time to play and, master, and and it's really cool. And so the thing is, like, I think, because it gives away so much ridiculous amounts of money and they are able to sort of crowdfund this stuff by giving you things in the game, avatars and characters for whatever time, or they take something like a percentage of sales out that will go to the prize fund. Wizards has this online component where they could sell an avatar or whatever, or a special foiling or a special frame.
Magic Online now?
They do. It's weird. And so if they took a portion of Magic Online's profit, they took digital things that they would sell you in Magic Online, and they would put like all the proceeds or 90% of the proceeds or whatever it would be towards this prize fund for the Pro Tour. I know they're playing for a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Pro Tour costs a lot of money. It's really sweet. But like, if you're playing for like, $1 million, you're going to get a lot more attention than if you're just playing for $40K. Like, yeah, it's just true.
The Pro Tour giving away $40,000 as opposed to the Pro Tour sponsored by Monster Energy drinks giving away $200,000 is much, or let alone $1 million.
Yeah.
Like these League of Legends, these League of Legends guys are just blowing everything out of the water. It's so big all over the world.
It's crazy, and I love that. And you want to take that success, and you want to say, okay, can our game do this? Can we make our stuff?
I want to see that, but on another level, I can't see us packing Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? Like, Magic is like...
Hey, not with that attitude. Not with that attitude.
You know what? You're right. I can only apologize at this point.
All right, so we're going to move on here to our last splash damage topic, which is YouTube gaming. YouTube is a fit. Now, they announced this many months ago, and Twitch trolled them, and it was very fun. But now they've officially launched, and a bunch of big YouTube personalities are on there. Peanut Butter Gaming, Matt Pat, those guys, and the service is officially launched, and they want to be the new Twitch, and they want to let you kind of use your gaming stream, take it over here. You can make your YouTube videos all in one nice little spot, and it's really interesting. Sort of, we have this dueling dynamic, and I'm hoping that they have a nice, healthy, competitive relationship, and aren't just like, well, then YouTube came out and just smashed Twitch, and it was over, and then we just have the one and only site. Ruben, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I hope that it's more of a Coke-Pepsi situation as opposed to one just getting it all and ruining the other company, because certainly the culture of YouTube is slightly different than the culture of Twitch. I don't know if they're going to be changing that at all based on gamer personalities and the folks that they've partnered with on YouTube. Certainly, I would imagine that people who are more famous for their YouTube content, such as yourself, are probably more inclined to be partnered with YouTube, whereas people who are more famous for their streaming content and for their live content might be more inclined to go with Twitch. I know recently Twitch just announced a deal with Jason Somerville, who's the run-it-up gaming guy in poker, as their flagship guy for poker. And he was always a YouTube guy for 3 years. And so there's going to be this healthy competition of who can snipe whose flagship people for various games. I think it's super good that there's competition, because when there's competition, you're constantly forced to get better. When there's only one, I mean, you don't really have to move, you can just sit there and do really nothing. And people will still use your product. So I'm excited to see the development of Twitch versus YouTube. YouTube also, by the way, seems more like it's more conducive for, I don't know, gaming talk shows, possibly. So I'm interested to see if they try to fight over that demographic as well.
Sure.
Because it seems like Twitch isn't really sort of trying to get gaming talk shows front and center. So maybe they go after that demographic a little more. I'm excited that they're actually putting some weight behind it now, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Aaron, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm excited for 2 reasons. I am not tech girl. Like, I've thought about streaming, but like setting up a stream is really difficult for me. And I've had people walk me through it and everything. So the idea that you can have a service like YouTube Gaming that you can not only stream but it's really easy to convert your stream to videos. For somebody like me who's not the most technical, that's really awesome. I also like the fact that they are trying to separate gaming from YouTube. I love watching videos. I learn a lot about how to play a deck by watching the videos, and when you try to look up dredge and all of a sudden you get how to dredge your rain gutters and you're like, crap, and you're having to scroll through page after page of these things, and like, that's not what I'm there for. And there could be a really good video out there, but because it only has 5 views, it may not come up in those pages, and so I'm not getting to see that. So it gives people who wouldn't otherwise get a chance to have their content seen a better opportunity, and it gives people like me who know what we want and we don't want to deal with the chaff a chance to find what we're really looking for. So that really appeals to me.
Keeping the name YouTube is interesting to me, because I know that Twitch split off from, wait for it, Justin TV. Remember that name?
Oh, yeah.
Back at the very beginning of when Twitch became a gaming site. But YouTube Gaming is keeping the name YouTube. They're going to be much more identified with the mothership.
I think that's smart.
I also think it's smart, but it's just a different tack that they've taken.
Sure.
So, there's lots of different layers to how interesting all this is going to be.
I'm curious to how YouTube is going to... Twitch has that issue with copyrighted music, right? Where like you can't play something. I wonder how that's going to work with YouTube. Like if you...
It'd be the same. Like they have the same algorithms that run through the audio of your video, no matter how you made the video, whether you live streamed it or uploaded it. And they'll find it and they'll get rid of it just like Twitch would. But again, it's like... can you think of the Pepsi to YouTube's Coke in terms of video hoster on the internet? We're talking like Live Leak or something. Like it's just, they're not even close.
I have one more question for you. You were talking about the algorithms for Twitch. I know, again, with me trying to set up a stream, somebody had told me that your video quality will only be so good until you're partnered with Twitch. Like I guess your quality improves once you become a partner. Do you think that's the case with YouTube too, where like your quality will only be so good until YouTube picks you up, or will you just have your normal quality?
I mean, I can't speak to their network setup. I mean, I'm not really surprised that the partners get, sort of like a preferred connection, if that's sort of what we're talking about. Nor would I be surprised if they let YouTube, people who've been on YouTube a long time, or who have been a partner for a long time, or who have X subscribers. That's another sort of big metric they use, is once you pass X subscribers, different things happen. You get the attention of different people once you start getting that many subscribers, and trust me, I know. So,
humble brag.
Humble brag these.
So, are you, as someone who's been on YouTube for a long time, excuse me, on YouTube for a long time, making content on YouTube?
Yeah.
Are you, but now you're streaming on Twitch doing this talk show.
Sure.
Are you more inclined to explore options with YouTube gaming, or are you content with Twitch?
I'm far more inclined, because it just keeps all of it like in this one bubble. I don't have to have this account over here at Twitch, or this, whether we partner or whatever, have subscribers over at Twitch, and then you have the stuff over at YouTube. And so I'm trying to make YouTube stuff, but I'm trying to do Twitch stuff, and I want to stream at Twitch in order to make, them to make it like for things like for partnering things to happen. For example, you need to stream something like 2 or 3 times a week, and so then you're like, okay, well I gotta do this Twitch thing, but I want to do this YouTube stuff, and it kind of tears you a little bit. So, so yeah, I mean, ultimately, streaming to YouTube is something I would definitely think about, and I think we should have a conversation about. But I'm happy where I'm at currently, and I think it's fine. But
I'm just curious. I mean, this is obviously a discussion that we'll probably have off air, but it's
Sure.
It's also a live conversation that a lot of people are going to be having. A lot of streamers out there. Newmont, for example, streams on Twitch, and then posts the archives of those to YouTube. And he's not alone. So I'm just very interested to see how this all shakes out.
That's what we do.
It's an unusual concept. I work for a banking firm during the day, and it's like, we're constantly talking about how we want all of our customers to have at least 3 of our products. So rather than having an auto loan with this bank and your credit card with this bank and your savings account with this bank, you want them all in the same location, just like you said, Evan, for the convenience sake. So it's all sounding very familiar to me.
Yeah, I mean, they saw a space that was very popular, that was making Twitch money, and was now a part of Amazon, and they're like, well, we like that, we want that, and we got engineers who are smart, we got people who understand the business, and let's go for it. So again, I want a Coke Pepsi situation. I don't want like a YouTube rose to prominence and then like every other site just died. Like, it's not really close. So that's interesting. Now we're going to move on to Pass the Salt. Now, Pass the Salt is when we get a little salty. And
I'm not getting salty this week. Are you getting salty, Aaron?
No, I'm good.
No, who's left? Who could possibly have anything to complain about?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to drop this on dear Wizards.
I'm going to drop this on them.
Why do you make Zendikar lands in the standard land frame? What is up with that? Why are you doing that? It's like the white borders on core sets, and then one day you're like, hey, that looks terrible, and black looks great. We should just do black borders. And it's like, yeah, you should have made that change a long time ago. Why are you putting us through this? Why do we have to worry about the event deck having the old frames and the fat pack has new stuff? Like, if it's a Battle for Zendikar land, if it is a Zendikar basic land, just make them extended art. Stop messing around and giving us a bad experience because it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, you don't get the cool lands in that one. No, they should always have the cool lands all the time. Give people the cool lands. Stop taking it away. Stop making the land collectors collect another 20 cards randomly. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. They're sounding the horn. It's time to stop the insanity and give me some freaking full frame cards like you should be giving me, man. Like, Ruben, am I alone here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I definitely see your point. This is quite the moment to get on your pedestal. I'm one to talk, obviously. #OCC. But this is like, it is kind of stupid. Like, if you're Zendikar, if you're making Zendikar for a year, it should all be the Zendikar thing that you'd expect. This is your stamp. It's Zendikar. We have full art lands. That's what we do here in Zendikar. We don't have regular lands. We're the lands plane. That's who we are.
Right.
Oh, by the way, here's some normal lands with the same art slightly cut off. It is kind of stupid. And confusing. I
feel
don't
bad.
see. But the confusing thing for me, though, is that I feel like this had to have been a conscious decision by someone. Someone had to go, do we want to just put the lands that we already have? No. We should get a different printing press.
You should make them worse.
It doesn't matter if they're better. It doesn't matter if they're worse. We should get a different printing press.
Sure. For
no reason other than to be different in this particular product than every other product. It's very weird, and it seems like it doesn't happen by accident. It was a conscious decision. So that's the confusing part for me. But obviously, full art lands are sweet, and the fact that they only come around every so often makes them even sweeter. It was Unglued, Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar. That's when we have them.
Yeah.
Why do we have these weird ones mixed in? I guess they'll be collector's items? Maybe?
That's what I'm saying. You're making the land collectors go another 20 cards deeper. Like, I get it, I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like I don't know why they do that.
If you're a land collector, are you really that broken up if you don't have basic Island Art 221C from the,
I don't know, man.
Not A, not B. You've got like F now at this point.
I've seen people collect. I've seen people have binders of that one card that they latch onto. I wouldn't rule anybody out in terms of collecting things. Like,
I met the one with nothing guy, and he was like, "Look, I have all these one with nothings," and it was cool because that was his jam. He had a couple pages of foils. It was cool. Aaron, how do you?
Good friend of mine from Portland has an entire binder like this thick of grinning idols. Huh. Yeah, I know those guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Aaron, how do you feel about them making these lands to start with?
I really don't have a dog in the fight, although somebody did just tweet me and is suggesting that we need non-full art lands to stop the competitive crowd from sniping precons from new players. I'm not really sure how much that floats, but it sounds plausible. But the only thing I want to say is that we need to have our own horn because the timing on that was flawless.
It's pretty good.
To the point where we have sound effects, that would be just perfect. Like, especially for the salt section, like just.
Oh my God. All right. So we're going to have a little bit of a shorter show this week. However, we'll be back here next week at 11 o'clock, I'm sure, with all sorts of sweet things to talk about. We're going to round the bend to the finisher.
Yeah, next week we're going to have a big show. We're going to have champs. We're going to have packs. We're going to have, I'm sure we're going to have spoilers. You're going to have information from the party, assuming you're sober.
You look at me when you say that.
Oh, I'm looking at my webcam. I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a spot, a glass, Right. So, Aaron, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Magic is introducing Puzzle Quest soon, coming soon to a mom's iPad near you. So, as Magic tries to expand their demographics, what is the next Magic crossover game you anticipate from Wizards of the Coast?
Okay. Later this winter, Magic and Treyarch will team up to bring us the most infuriating of all the war games, Call of Duty Mono Black Ops.
Sounds awful.
Ruben, let's hear it.
Well, because they sure know how to corner a market, Magic and parent company Hasbro are going to team up to bring you Magic Online Monopoly. Because if we can't make Magic Online good, no one can.
And for those fans, like myself, of 90s animated nostalgia, just you wait for the upcoming release of the MTG NBA Jam, featuring oversized heads of your favorite planeswalkers dunking basketballs on each other. There goes Chandra. She's on fire! Woo!
That is great.
Woo! I love it. She's on fire. Also, yeah. So...
Also, yeah.
So it was fantastic. So I do want to thank Ruben. I want to thank Aaron for joining me for another episode of Magic Mike's as we barrel our way towards the final slide. So that ends another episode of Magic Mike's. Thank you for joining us here live to discuss all things Magic. I want to thank my co-hosts, you guys for watching, and hope you follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, and do everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMikes. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.